All you have to do is look outside and you'll realize it's time for a little basketball. Hello and welcome into Inside Tulsa Athletics. I'm Rick Couri, your host, and today we're going to talk a lot of basketball, both boys and girls. Not just that, though. We'll hear a little bit of wrestling as well, and we'll get you started for what is kind of the grind of the season as we get closer and closer to playoff time and tournament time. Coming up today, right here on Inside Tulsa Athletics. Welcome back to Inside Tulsa Athletics. And the face to my left, you are already familiar with. He is a guy who has done so many things for high school basketball. Bobby Allison from Memorial, a traditional power. I want to ask about that to begin with. You know, it's interesting how someone becomes a traditional power.
Right.
Tulsa Public Schools, like any other school,
Right.
has a feeder system. These kids come from around that area, you know, and then suddenly they're suddenly in high school.
Right.
But you're traditionally so good in basketball. How does it continue, Bobby?
A lot of pride and people that really care about it from, really the last 30 years. Really, probably around mid-'80s, Coach Spray got over there with Michael O'Rourke, and they hit the ground running, and we've been blessed with amazing players, parents that allow us to coach, administrators that allow us to coach, and we allow the players to play. So we want to make it a players program, but it also, got to harness and teach and mold the young men to be as tough and together as possible, and it's just the tradition continues. That's our slogan, and we've kept it going, and it's taken a lot of sacrifice and hours, but it's been worth it. So we're getting it rolling this year as well.
Those numbers up and those titles up on the wall, they do help, don't they?
They do. They're instant motivation in practice, and that's your why. Whenever I'm asking you to do something. So.
All right, now 9-3 so far this year. Tell me a little bit about your basketball team.
We got a team real experience. Last year we kind of reloaded. We had 7 guys graduate in 2023, our top 7. So last year started from scratch. Everybody was playing more minutes than they've ever played. We had a lot of ups and downs last year. Still finished 19-9, and we're a game away from the state tournament. But we had 100% of our playoff scoring back, and nobody came to transfer. We didn't get any transfers or anything. The kids just wanted to keep it just last year's team, and they wanted to run it back. And it's kind of been after we lost last year to Booker T in the area, we didn't say it was the end. We said it's to be continued, and so this is the continuing of that hard work from last year. And like you said, we're 9-3, we're 6-0 in district, which is really all that matters, because we're looking to get that home regional and hopefully the 1 seed. And we're playing good. We had some great practices over Christmas break, and through this tough winter stretch of the snow days and everything, we were productive. We've got 2 wins this week, and we're going to El Reno on Saturday, a makeup game, because we didn't get the McAllister tournament in, and they're undefeated and ranked by one publication number 1 in 5A. So we get to make up games. We're going to go test ourselves Saturday.
That's got to be fun. I mean,
it's awesome. It's awesome that El Reno's coach called me up and was like, "Hey, we want to challenge ourselves." And we were like, "All right, let me get some minibuses.
Here we come.
Let's go." Yeah.
We'll get us a pike pass and away we go.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's great when a team accepts that challenge, right?
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, we're a traditional powerhouse, and El Reno's got great tradition as well. So, and with it being district play now, there's no reason to run from anybody, because your district games are going to matter. And so these games are, I don't want to call them scrimmages, but, we beat El Reno, we're still 6-0 in district. We lose to El Reno, we're still 6-0 in district. And we know what we're at measured up against some of the best. And tournament play is going to do that as well as district games.
One of the things you said is you had a lot of that scoring back, so you kind of knew what you had.
Yeah,
Still,
we did.
Every year when things start, teams might develop different characters and personalities. What's this one been like?
We knew what we had coming back. One thing we've done a better job of besides our 3 losses, is handling adversity. And, sometimes kids think, well, we got everybody coming back. Well, now we're going to have fun. Now you still have to go through adversity, even though you got all your pieces back. It's not just because you had adversity last year doesn't mean adversity's not waiting this year. So what we are after the adversity is what we're going to be the rest of the season. So like you said, I'm long-winded. We know what we had coming back, and it's, we're learning from mistakes of last year and from this year, and kids really got some chemistry.
What have you seen skill level as far as talent-wise, guys getting better at this year?
The game has slowed down. Varsity speed is not, they're not getting frazzled by it. We're kind of on offense. The game is, we're getting to our spots a little better, being smarter with the ball, learning a great shot instead of a good shot. And defensively, we're able to just be in front of our man a little more. We're not getting sped up, or our habits of staying down on defense or going and getting that ball instead of watching. We're playing a little bit more. So, I've seen that through all my stud 6 seniors who they've really bought in, and they're playing like grown men. And then I got a bunch of juniors that have kind of followed the seniors' lead, and they're talented as well. So just kind of coming together, and we're looking forward to the last part of this regular season and getting the playoffs going.
Yeah, as we've been said to people, we're kind of in the grind, aren't we?
Yeah, we are, and that's what I wrote on the board today. The teams that like playing together still the rest of the season and want to put into practice the most, that's the teams that are going to got to separate themselves, because there's probably 8 to 10 teams that can play with anybody in 5A, and who's going to like playing with each other the most is going to be the teams throughout the rest of the season.
And that's one of them right there, Tulsa Memorial. Bobby Allison, thanks for being here.
Great to see you, Rick.
All right,
Definitely.
good to see you too. Back with more Inside Tulsa Athletics coming up next.
Hey, Tulsa, we have a crushing recycle play of the day for you. Team Johnson versus paper and cardboard.
They're starting off slow today, probably trying to figure out what to do with those styrofoam plates, since they're not recyclable.
There's the big play we were waiting for. Boom! Completely empty cardboard boxes dunked in the cart. Score big by recycling your cardboard and paper. Learn more at TulsaRecycles.com.
I love Will Rogers Athletics because it helped me physically, spiritually, and emotionally through all the journeys I've been through at that school. All of the support staff helped me a lot, and it's just an amazing school.
Athletics at Will Rogers changed my life because it became a second family. With the support of my coaches and teammates, it's helped me gain confidence, work as a team, and will help me in college and in life.
You're watching Inside Tulsa Athletics. Welcome back. I'm Rick Couri, your host, and we are going to switch over to Edison High School or the Philadelphia Eagles, depending. We're giving a little trouble to this gentleman right here, 1U, with Edison's girls. You do get, sometimes people think that, don't they?
Yes, they think I'm an assistant football coach for the Philadelphia Eagles. When I travel out of town, I have my Edison gear on. Yeah, I get people coming up to me and asking me, am I assistant football coach?
But I will tell you, and this may be a secret, so I'm not going to let too much out about it. There might be some other logos in the mix coming up. All right, so tell me about your ladies.
Ladies, they've been working hard. We got a young team. We only got 1 senior and 1 junior in the whole entire program. So we're relying on a lot of freshmen and sophomores to, going to take the bulk of the minutes. With a young team, you're going to have your learning moments. Sure. You're going to have the moments where you see some highlights, and then you're going to see some moments where, those highlights that they take some steps back. Sure. So it's been a lot of teaching.
Well, let's get to that, because I love talking about how you coach, and I love building programs and how things happen. I think it'd be really fascinating to sit with Nick Saban for an hour, and it would take longer than that. Where did you start, and ask those things? What was your first thing? What did you put in place? So what do you do? How do you go about it?
The first thing I put in place is trying to relate to the young ladies about sacrifice, being committed, being dedicated to something, okay? Then once they're understand about sacrifice, now they understand how to be disciplined, okay? Being able to control their temper, being able to be coachable, and then that leads into obedience. And now they're listening to me, okay? And then after we can overcome the obedience, now it's unity. Now we're going to play for each other. So that's my framework when I'm trying to upstart a program, especially with young players, because a lot of young players coming in, they have high expectations of playing and things of that nature because they was really good in junior high. Now you starting all over. You're a 14-year-old, you're competing against 18-year-olds, and it's a big learning process with that.
Now, they come in knowing some skills, there's no question, but those skills have to elevate. Tell me about some of your practice facilities, not facilities, but some of your practices in practice. How do you put things in place? What do you drill? What do you work on?
A lot of things, we're working on fundamentals. A lot of these young ladies, a lot of them don't play AAU. Only 2 of our players actually play year-long basketball. So these other ladies, they just come to practice when we have practice, and they don't touch a ball after that. So we've been trying to communicate with these young ladies, play basketball. Rather it's just dribbling in your driveway or on your porch, or you're laying in your bed shooting the ball in the air without hitting the ceiling.
Right.
When you're watch basketball, just work on footwork. You could be in your room watching whatever you're watching and just kind of work on footwork and things of that nature. In practice, we do a lot of shell drill, a lot of dribbling drill, a lot of passing drills, because a lot of these young ladies, like I said, they don't have those basic skills. So we're trying to learn how to catch. We're trying to learn how to dribble with our left hand. We're trying to learn how to increase their IQ for our seeing man and ball. So it's a lot of teaching because we got young players.
What you described there is work.
Yes.
And not everybody likes work. They like flipping the ball up. They like shooting, that kind of thing. How do you get them excited about it?
Well, we try to highlight or focus on the good moments. We still focus on the mistakes they're making, but we try to communicate to the young ladies in a positive way. Hey, these mistakes you're making, you can correct them just by listening to us during the game, because I know during the game is war. There's a lot of things going on. It's fast-paced, people screaming, people shouting. Don't listen to how the message is sent, listen to the message. And when you're working with young ladies, sometimes they get caught up in their emotions and they kind of forget about what you're saying, and they focus on how you're saying it when it should be the other way around. So it's a tough job. All coaches would love to have players coming in ready to play. Sure. But I knew when I took the job, what I was getting into, and I understood that this is going to be a 2-year development with the sophomores and freshmen, because my sophomores were freshmen last year. They played a bulk of the varsity minutes. Yeah. Now they're sophomores, and then I have a good freshman group right behind them. So we're focusing on this young group and just trying to drill into them how to play varsity basketball.
You don't have as many wins as you like. I understand that. But because, like you said, it's a young team. What are they improving at right now? What are they getting better at? What are you seeing on the court that you're talking about?
That's a good question, because we just had a conversation with them last night. They're starting to become tough. They're starting to realize when you playing against older girls, you got to meet their intensity. You got to meet their toughness. And we played Pryor last night. Now, Pryor, they don't have any height. They don't have no super athletic superstar, but they play tough. And that game last night showed our girls, we got to be tough. We can't let physicality stop us. We can't complain because I hit my head or I fell on the ground. I got to jump back up and get back to playing. So with this group, I think they're learning how to be tough, learn how to continue to play with effort, and don't play to the scoreboard. Don't let the scoreboard dictate your effort.
There you go. Well, thank you very much for coming. It sounds like you're having a good time being enthusiastic. I appreciate that, and maybe we'll debut the new logo sometime.
Yes, no doubt.
YU with Edison girls basketball right here on Inside Tulsa Athletics. Back with more in a moment.
Hey Tulsa, welcome back to the top recycling play of the day. Team Johnson is facing off against a tough competitor, plastic.
Don't trust those numbers on the bottom. You have to stick to what you know. Only bottles and jugs found in the kitchen, bath, or laundry. They're quick to pick up. And empty those bottles before sinking that shot.
Always empty your bottles before recycling. Score big by recycling your plastic bottles and jugs. Learn more at TulsaRecycles.com.
Being an athlete at Nathan Hales means that you have to be consistent, outgoing, and be dedicated because students at Nathan Hale look up to the football team.
Being an athlete at Nathan Hale has taught me to be confident and disciplined, and always to be open-minded and always ready to work with people no matter how difficult it is.
All you have to do is look at the weather and you realize it's basketball weather. Welcome back to Inside Tulsa Athletics. I'm Rick Couri, your host. And we're going to talk a little more basketball right now with Terrence Buckley. He's the interim boys coach over at Rogers. You can tell that by the Will Rogers. There you go. We got that Will Rogers logo on right there. Terrence, thanks very much. And you guys are rolling.
Yeah, we rolling, man. And we hoping to keep the chain rolling.
What is this team doing really well for you?
I think they really buying in and playing together. I think that's one thing that we're doing well. Defensively, I think we're getting better every game. I just think they playing well together as a team, sharing the ball well, and just buying into what I'm teaching them.
And you've got a wonderful record thus far, so obviously early things have gone. Has anything surprised you, either good or bad, at how well they've done, or something you still want them to improve on?
Actually, nothing really surprised me. I mean, I believe that these boys was always good. I think it just took a little time. I mean, we got a handful of sophomores, some juniors, just got a young squad. I think as they just get a little bit older, that they just started to understand the game a little more, trust each other a little more, and just kind of build off that. So how they doing this season hasn't really surprised me at all.
You know, trust is something we hear an awful lot. It's a word it's used a lot these days. How do you get them to build that? It's one thing to do it in a game, but you got to do it in a practice setting too and get these guys used to it. How do you go about it?
I really mix up the groups a lot. I try to put like three strong guys on one group, another three strong guys on another group, and then mix up some of the other guys in there. And just let them bang it out at practice, mix up the groups a lot, and try to build that trust. Like sometimes make the group strong, sometimes make a little weaker. And then they got to lean on each other when they don't have everybody to get like a strong group. Now you got to lean on each other a little bit more. And I think that's really been helping with the practices.
All right. So tell me, thus far, about some of your guys who are playing really well.
We got a kid, Brandon Crossland, sophomore, pretty much get a double-double every game. He's really on the offensive glass. He crashed the boards a lot on the offensive glass. Last night against Couri, he had 21 and 10. 3 blocks. So he's just kind of one of those do-it-all guys. And then we got some shooters. You know, Cyrus can shoot it. Terrence Buckley can shoot it. Couri can shoot it. And then our big guy in the post, Jay Oates, is been a really big presence for us around the rim. And then Sean King and Caleb, they've been doing pretty well at the PZ position.
You know, you mentioned big guys. We always hear the term he's growing into his body or he's kind of getting used to it. We'll see really big players who lumber a little bit. You got them at a really early age. How much of that do you see? How much do you see them improving? What do you do to help them with it?
I just try to get the guys, the guards, to buy into feeding into the post. I think that's one of the things that's a lost art of the game is that kind of inside-outside part. But they just need to get it to him and trust in them, get it to him a lot of times, and that way they build up his confidence. But he's one of the ones that stay late, 30, 40 minutes after practice, and work on post moves, work on moves around the rim, mid-range and stuff like that. So I think that's really been helping him develop into a nice guy around the rim.
Well, and then when you talk about being player-led, not coach-led, those are the kind of kids that do that, aren't they?
Yes, that's correct. Some of these guys are just buying into just staying late on their own. You know what I mean? And putting in the time on them, whether it's before practice or after practice. And that's all on them. I mean, I encourage it, but it's up to them really to make that choice to stay and put in the work on their own time.
You know, some teams are really businesslike. Some teams have a more loose attitude. Overall, what's the personality of this group?
I would say, I'll say a little bit of both. I mean, I got guys that's got that personality. You know, they go out there and they play off of their personality. They're going to bring some energy, and that's just what they do. And then I got some that's just going to just do what they do. You know what I mean? So I think I got a little bit of both.
What is it you think you want this team to do better down the stretch to have a really good run when it gets close to that tournament time?
Defense. I mean, you hear it all the time. It's kind of cliche. Defense is what win games. You know what I mean? And I think that's what I want them to do. Be better on closeouts. Be better at talking. Be better at not letting your guy go middle. You know, taking pride on the defensive end. I think that'll really take us far when it's time to go down the stretch.
That interim thing on your coaching thing, that might not matter right now because it sure looks like you're doing a heck of a job.
I mean, I agree. You know, I think, but I don't want to take all the credit. You know, I got a couple of assistant coaches that show up every day as well, and then my players, man, I give them all the credit. They, for the most part, we got most of them show up every day, whether I say it's, you know, on a Saturday or a Sunday, or we stay in late an extra hour or two or whatever it is. They show up as well. So I think it's just the program in general. We all show up.
Outstanding. Well, continued good luck. Thank you very much for being here.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Terrence Buckley, interim coach at Rogers High School. Back with more coming up on Inside Tulsa Athletics.
Hey, Tulsa, welcome back to the top recycling play of the day. Team Johnson is facing off against one tough competitor, glass.
That's right. Only glass bottles and jars are recyclable. Don't even think about sinking a drink in glass or mirror. Always good to empty your glass bottles and jars before recycling.
These two get it, emptying both bottles from far out, and they remove the lids. Score big by recycling your glass bottles and jars. Learn more at TulsaRecycles.com.
Being an athlete at Booker T. Washington has taught me to carry myself with class as an athlete, student, and friend, and to have responsibility on and off the field, and that it's the littlest things that will make all the difference in the long run.
Being an athlete at Memorial High School has taught me to be a better person, because when you play sports, attitude is the main thing you have to deal with, not just your own, but other people's. It also teaches you to be the bigger person.
This is Inside Tulsa Athletics. Welcome back. I'm your host, Rick Couri, and we're talking some girls basketball over at an absolute institution in Tulsa Public Schools, Rogers High School. Jonah Johnson is with us. She's the girls coach, and you guys are rolling.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about your basketball team. 9-3 thus far. I know you had a tough loss lately, but 9-3. What are your girls doing well?
Every game that we've went to, every coach has complimented us on how hard we play. So I think for me, that's it. I tell my girls, you have to play hard. If you can make 100 mistakes in the world, but as long as you make them going hard, I'll take it. You know, a lot of times these kids, they get in their head, and once they get in their head, it's like, I don't want to do anything. Take me out. No, not at Rogers. Not at Rogers. We're going to play hard. We're going to make our mistakes. It is what it is, but we're going to go hard the whole entire game.
How do you get them to do that? I know there are going to be people watching right now saying, that's fantastic. I want to do that. So what do you do?
It's all about buying in. And in order for the girls to buy in, you have to build those relationships. I know that every girl on my roster, I have a different relationship with them. And that goes for me and my two assistants. They also have to have their own relationship with them as well. So just getting them to buy in with having those relationships. I know it's easier said than done, yes. But when you have girls that want to buy in and they believe everything that you're saying and you have those good relationships, it's easy to get them to run through a brick wall for you.
You know, there's one of my favorite guys, and I was very good friends, still am, with Nolan Richardson. Mm-hmm. And Nolan was that way. Yeah. I mean, they called that the 40 minutes of HE double toothpicks, mm-hmm. right? And I mean, those guys hated him at practice and loved him the minute it ended.
Yes.
But how do you do that as a coach? Because you have to have a relationship, but you also have to have distance and be professional. Yes. How do you manage it?
For me, I mean, it's pretty easy. I'm a people person. Like, I like to say that I'm a people person. I've always been complimented on that. But my girls, they know that when we're in practice, where there's 2 hours, hour and a half, 30 minutes, we're here to get our work in. We're here to do our job. But after that, okay, now we can laugh, we can giggle. I'll make the TikToks with you, or whatever the case may be. But when we walk into those doors, as soon as you touch the sideline, you pick up a ball, you pick those shoes on, it's time to work.
What are they doing best right now when it comes to on the court? Now, when you go into a season, you have a feeling about a team, but then they have a personality, and that starts to come out. What's this one's been, and what are they really accomplishing well on the court?
Fast and aggressiveness. Those are the two words that I would use to describe us. Like, those are the things that we're doing well. We're aggressive. Defensively, we're aggressive. Attacking the paint, we're aggressive. We play fast. I mean, those girls, they work their butt off in preseason, so we're in some pretty good shape, but those are the two things that I would say that they're doing well, really well right now.
Tell me about some of your players.
I mean, you can't start off with anybody other than Sanaya Morrison. Sanaya Morrison, that girl, she can play her butt off. She can play. She's a kid that gets lost in the art. Like we talk about, oh, we need a kid with dog mentality. We need these dogs. When you look up dog, Sanaya Morrison will pop up. Sanaya Morrison, she is an amazing kid on and off the floor. On and off the floor. She puts in the work. She wants to learn. She watches so much basketball. Sometimes I have to tell her, like, Naya, hey, let's watch something other than film. Like, like it's okay to have a life outside of basketball. We have Lindsay Overstreet. She's accepted a new role for us. She wasn't quite, a scorer in her past seasons, but this year she's stepping it up. She's accepted the role. She's putting in the work. We have a sophomore, Kaden Shung. Man, when she's about 5 foot even, but she averaging like 5-6 rebounds a game at 5 foot. She's another dog that we have on the team. She just buys in. She puts in the work. Like she has no problem with putting in the work. Erin Gibson, one of our post players, she's averaging like 7 blocks a game right now. You got Elizabeth Clark, and she just buys in. She just works hard. She does everything that nobody else wants to do.
Program players.
Yes.
Love those kids.
So those kids right there, and even some of the girls we got coming off the bench, like Anaya Justice and Kamari Miller, they all have their own identity. And I tell them every day, like, with your own identity, you have to come in and you have to excel in your role. Mm-hmm. Everybody's role is different. And I think that's another piece of them buying in. Okay, you want me to be a shooter? I'm going to put in the work to come be a shooter. You need me to be the best defender? Okay, I'll do that. So I think everybody in their roles, they're accepting it and they're growing every single day to accept those roles and be good in them.
And then when you get success doing that, it's easier to move that forward, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Like we just talked to them the other day about like, hey, when y'all do what y'all want to do, we don't look very well. But when y'all do what we're asking y'all to do, we look like a pretty darn good team. So, and I think they're starting to see it. So they'll look like, you did tell me to do it. Yeah, I did. But you did it the other way and it didn't work, did it? So, yeah, we're having a blast this year. I love this group that we have. I think we have a really special group.
Yeah, you're in the time of the year when I call it the dog days, man, because you're grinding right now trying to get to that postseason, which in itself is like an entire other season. And it's a grind. How do you keep it fresh?
Off days. You have to, with the schedule that we have, we're blessed to have a pretty good schedule playing Tuesdays and Fridays. So you get a couple of good off days in there and resting their legs and, taking the proper treatment. But when it's that time, we're going to take it up a different level, And it goes back to preseason. Preseason, those girls work so hard. And I tell them, like, preseason is what gets you to postseason.
Yep.
So when everybody else is dogged out, tired, and everybody starts dropping down, we'll still be there.
You need to go see these girls play. That's Jonah Johnson from Booker T, and she's the girls basketball coach. Thanks for coming by.
Nice to meet you.
Back with just some more Inside Tulsa Athletics coming up.
Hey, Tulsa, welcome back to the top recycling play of the day. Team Johnson is looking to defend their title against aluminum and steel cans.
Bob, most people think of the kitchen for this opponent, but aluminum and steel cans, like empty shaving cream cans, also play extremely well in bathrooms all over Tulsa. That was nothing but bin, Bob.
Wow, right into the bin. Team Johnson has buttoned up another win. Score big by recycling your aluminum and steel cans. Learn more at TulsaRecycles.com.
Being an athlete at Edison High School has taught me to work as a team rather than as an individual. Whenever you're on a team, you have a special bond with each other. You can rely on them in a time of need, whether on or off the court. Whether it be a shoulder to cry on or advice on how you can improve, your team will always be there for you.
Hey, Tulsa, we have a crushing recycle play of the day for you. Team Johnson versus paper and cardboard.
They're starting off slow today, probably trying to figure out what to do with those styrofoam plates, since they're not recyclable.
There's the big play we were waiting for. Boom! Completely empty cardboard boxes dunked in the cart. Score big by recycling your cardboard and paper. Learn more at TulsaRecycles.com.
Welcome back to Inside Tulsa Athletics. I'm Rick Couri, your host here, and we're going to continue talking a little high school basketball. McLain's Randy Rutherford is with us. Thank you very much for taking the time to come over. I know it's a busy day. You guys are doing testing and things.
Yeah, everybody's doing testing, and we had a little incident in school with a little water. And but I made it.
It sounds like more than a little water. You had somewhat of a flood?
We had a big flood right about 11 o'clock. So I was able to sneak out and get over here to get this done.
There is nothing like having that unexpected. It's to start your day, right?
No doubt.
All right, let's talk a little about your basketball team. One of the things that early in the season is teams kind of develop a personality or a character. What are you finding out about your group?
Well, my team is really young this year, so we're really trying to figure out what makes us who we are. And the biggest deal that I always go back to is defense. I think we got a chance to be pretty good. We usually get better in January and February. Mm-hmm. And we're just looking forward. We got a lot of games coming up, so we're just looking forward to play. We haven't played since December 21st.
And that creates a lot of rust in there. How do you try to keep that away? I mean, practice is one thing, but you've got there's a different when the lights go on.
Yeah, it's totally different when the game is live. We try to emulate the game as much as possible. And when you got a young team, we're kind of blessed because we need that extra practice time. So we haven't really been too upset, a couple cancellations, but we know our kids are really itching ready to play.
You know, when you talk about trying to get things ready, you're talking about going back to fundamentals. And something we were talking about off the air is that's not as common as it used to be. Do you start almost back at the beginning every year, Randy, or how do you approach it?
Every year we start back. We call it back to the basics. And it's one of those slow processes, and they don't really like it, but that's what we do. And, you know, if you can get the fundamentals down, then all the other good stuff that you want to do, they're excited about doing, they can be successful at that.
And the things they're excited about doing are highlights. We all get that. But how do you get them excited about the basics?
Well, the best thing, I use a lot of analogy of former players. I always talk about Michael Jordan, for instance. He was the greatest player in my opinion, but he was the most fundamental. Mm-hmm. Then I talk about Grant Hill, fundamental. Jason Kidd, fundamental. So you talk about players that they can relate to and things that get them excited to understand that before you do the step back, you got to be able to dribble.
Right, makes sense. One of the things you talk about, you throw out some names right there. There are some names they won't recognize nowadays because they're like my age or, I mean, you're way younger than me. Do you have to keep it young, so to speak?
Well, yeah, I kind of call myself a trillennial coach. I keep my traditional perspective, but I understand how these millennial kids are and what they like, what excites them. But I always go back to the basics. And I always tell them at the end of the day, it's going to come down to percentages. If you're not shooting good percentages at certain shots, you're not going to be taking those shots from me.
All right. Now, one of the things you mentioned is defense, and I know that's something you prided yourself on, and I know all the coaches you were around prided yourself on that. But defense is hard, and that is not something that people generally like to learn. You'll always find a kid every now and then.
Right.
What's your approach?
Well, my approach is pretty simple. It's like everybody is required to do what's best for the team. Everybody has a job, and the one job that you all will have is play defense. If you don't play defense, you will not play. It's that simple. And if you can't guard your position, you're not going to play a lot. So my deal is I make defense fun. I use a lot of activities and games within the game about defense. You taking charges, guys that take the most charges during the week, he may get this prize. The guy that takes the most charges in the game, he gets this prize. The guy that gets stepped into defensive rebound. So I give them little things that they can reach for.
Right. What are some of those things you give out?
Well, I like to give out what we call, we used to give out this big necklace called defense necklace. And so if you're the best defensive player of the game, you get the necklace in the locker room.
Right.
Or in practice, I may say, okay, I'm going to give you a Gatorade because you took the most charges. Just simple stuff, nothing great, but every kid wants a prize, right? So if you give them a prize, and we used to do T-shirts, so we do a lot of things just to get them motivated to play defense.
You know, I knew a coach who used to give out candy bars, and you would not believe the competition it created for guys who wanted to get that day's Milky Way or whatever it was, right? You find that.
It works. Like I always say, I use the analogy of, you see how people act if you go to a college game or a sports game and they throwing out shirts, they act crazy for a shirt, right?
Yes.
I used to say, I'm just going to go out in the front yard, I'm going to throw shirts for you to mow my grass. And so it's kind of the same thing you do with the kids. If it's a prize to win, they all want the prize.
What do you see this team getting better at, and where do you think you need to go?
I think because we don't have a lot of size, one of the biggest things we got to get better at is really understanding how to play unselfish, and make the extra pass, right? Young people, they make up their mind what they're going to do. They don't read the defense. So reading the defense is probably the biggest thing that this group needs to learn how to do.
You know, this time of the year, and I've mentioned this before in one of our other coaches, it's just kind of the grind time. Now, you're just getting right back to it, but then you've got to kind of grind into what would be a tournament and all those things. How do you handle the hardest part of the year, in my opinion?
I kind of tell them it's kind of like the dog days of winter, right? It's cold outside. Dogs don't want to be out in the cold. We got to be wolves, you know. And so we kind of predicated this team this year compared to last year of having some tournaments where you play 3 games in a row. And so it's kind of that same thing, getting ready for the playoff run, and hopefully you can build some momentum and guys will understand that you may have to play 2 or 3 days in a row.
When you were playing, did you ever have the idea that you wanted to coach?
Well, I always knew I would be a better coach than I was a player. I always loved coaching. I always loved the aspect of watching film and breaking it down and finding a weakness and trying to exploit that. So it took me a while to get into coaching because I wasn't really sure if I wanted to do it because I like to train kids. I like the skill work.
Right.
But coaching to me is it's not about the wins and losses. It's about creating that kid for when he leaves and he can go off and become an adult and he can be a coach and teach his kids. And so it's about leaving I wouldn't say a legacy, but a blueprint for young people who may not know what they want to do. And athletics has always been important to me, and I think athletics is always going to be important to our society.
Ted Lasso said it best, make them the best version of themselves.
No doubt.
And by the way, he's humble. He's a really, really good player, too. Randy, thanks very much.
I appreciate your time.
You betcha. Randy Rutherford with McLain High School Basketball. Back with more next on Inside Tulsa Athletics.
Hey, Tulsa, welcome back to the top recycling play of the day. Team Johnson is facing off against one tough competitor, glass.
That's right. Only glass bottles and jars are recyclable. Don't even think about sinking a drink in glass or mirror. Always good to empty your glass bottles and jars before recycling.
These two get it, emptying both bottles from far out, and they remove the lids. Score big by recycling your glass bottles and jars. Learn more at TulsaRecycles.com.
I feel like athletics is so important at Tulsa Central because it's an outlet for some of our kids there. They get a better opportunity to basically give back to our community.
At McLain, the sports is what mainly drives a bunch of the students to come to school every single day and work hard because they want to be able to come from the classroom to the field or the court and show at what they're good at.
Welcome back. This is Inside Tulsa Athletics. I'm your host, Rick Couri. And you know, when we talk to administrators at Tulsa Public Schools, everybody has kind of a different role. And this young man right here is taking on middle school hoops. You've seen him before. This is Jason Selmon. Yes, he's part of the Selmon family. We covered that last time.
Yep.
How you been?
I've been pretty good, Rick. I've just been busy with middle school basketball, and things are going really good in terms of the season and how our teams are playing. And so that's what's been keeping me pretty busy for the last.
We talk about middle school basketball, you just think about it as kids running around. That's the feeder systems for high schools, and it's something that the outlying schools have done so well for many years, and TPS is really working on doing that. How do you go about it?
Well, it's more so just getting kids engaged early on, teaching them basic fundamentals and mastering those things and the concepts of basketball in the middle school. And naturally, kids will feed in to those high schools, but I mean, coaches at the high school level want kids coming in that know how to play, know the concepts and master basic fundamentals, and I think that's what's important, trying to teach kids at the middle school level.
Yeah, and I think people understand either how big communication is, and when it comes to verbiage and vernacular, when you're talking about certain things, it's going to get changed some because coaches change, I understand that, but they need to have that basic understanding. That can improve and really kind of speed along your entire process, can it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's also good, and what I've seen is a lot of the high school coaches are engaged with what's happening at the middle school. And so when you look at verbiage and plays and how things are run, I think that's why, you know, it's important that kids and the kids at the middle school are getting contact with the high school coaches, because basically they want them to know their systems when they get there. And I think that's what other schools have done a good job at, is having that consistency from elementary to middle school up to the high school level.
You know, we talked a lot about numbers in high schools. What are the middle school numbers like?
Middle school numbers are pretty good. All of our teams are full with 7th grade boys and 7th grade girls teams, and 8th grade boys and girls teams too. And so overall, the numbers are really, really good. And I think that bodes well, because we try to encourage our middle schools not to make cuts and keep as many kids on the rosters as you can. And it seems like that message is resonating, and more participation is happening, which leads to higher participation when you get to high school.
Absolutely. Numbers lead to numbers. There's no doubt about that. And when we talk about scheduling in high school, we're talking about, you know, we still have a little bit to go before it gets tournament time. You guys were pretty close, aren't you?
Yeah, we're getting very close. So we're about at the midpoint, or a little bit more than the midpoint of our season. And so we're gearing up for our postseason basketball tournament coming up in February.
Tell me a little bit about the logistics to that. I mean, it's a tournament, and you guys put on the Tournament of Champions, so you know how to do that. But it's still a lot of places, a lot of venues, a lot of people, and there's so much to accomplish.
Yeah, so obviously the first round, we take the top 8 teams from the regular season standings. And so we designate some locations where those games will happen over the 3 days. And then, just coordinating the gym spaces, the workers that work those tournaments, and then the transportation to get kids to and from. So there is a lot of logistics, but it moves pretty flawlessly once you get a good plan in place and get everybody on board with what the expectations are. And then it's just a matter of getting the games played. So there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of pieces because you got to get officials there as well. And so, we coordinate all those things with all the people that are involved, and it helps to run it smoothly.
How far in advance do you guys start working on those kinds of things, especially the places like venues? Because teams still have to practice too.
Yeah. So, and we also have to coordinate with the high school teams. So we started doing this at least about a month ago. Our season started, October, November, and then coming into December, we started looking at venues for the locations for the tournament games based off of, composite schedules that we put together. So.
Right. And there are other indoor sports to consider. There's a lot of things that are going on. When it comes to the actual performance of the kids, how are things?
I'm seeing that kids are learning and mastering the basic fundamentals, which is dribble, pass, and shoot, and then understanding concepts of defense. And so when I go to middle school games, that's kind of what I'm looking for. Are kids engaged? Are they learning? And are coaches teaching? And it seems to me like those things are happening. Even at teams that aren't doing as successful, they're still learning, they're still competing, and they're getting that opportunity to go out and perform. And then I'm also seeing like multiple kids, like all the kids are getting playing time, which I think is important at the middle school level. And so I think that all translates to success for kids and how they view and play the game as they move forward into high school.
And then, of course, when you got that many kids, you got moms and dads and grandmas and grandpas, and so those venues have to be ready for those. Those kids are excited to try to show that off. It all kind of starts to come together, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does come together. And when you on an outside perspective like me looking in, you see the time and effort and energy that's put in with our coaching staff. And from from what I've seen, parents, grandparents, and everybody else involved is super supportive. So that helps to make the season successful.
So what's your next project after this?
So after this, we'll turn into spring sports season and getting ready for golf and tennis at the high school level. And so that's where we'll be headed next.
Never a dull moment.
Nope, never a dull moment.
Jason Selmon with us. Thank you very much for being here. Talk a little middle school hoops. Back with more coming up right here on Inside Tulsa Athletics.
Hey Tulsa, welcome back to the top recycling play of the day. Team Johnson is looking to defend their title against aluminum and steel cans.
Bob, most people think of the kitchen for this opponent, but aluminum and steel cans, like empty shaving cream cans, also play extremely well in bathrooms all over Tulsa. That was nothing but bin, Bob.
Wow, right into the bin. Team Johnson has buttoned up another win. Score big by recycling your aluminum and steel cans. Learn more at TulsaRecycles.com.
Being an athlete at Nathan Hales means that you have to be consistent, outgoing, and be dedicated because students at Nathan Hale look up to the football team.
Being an athlete at Nathan Hale has taught me to be confident and disciplined and always to be open-minded and always ready to work with people no matter how difficult it is.
Welcome back to Inside Tulsa Athletics. I'm your host, Rick Couri, and we're going to continue by talking a little wrestling. We're going to do that right now with Stephen Phillips from Rogers. We're going to talk a little girls and a little boys wrestling. Let's start with the boys side. You guys have a tournament coming up. Tell me about it.
We got the Maury Villarreal Memorial Tournament. It's Saturday, the 18th. We've got 16 teams from all over the Tulsa area and western Arkansas.
Wow.
So we got quite a few kids, and we got a lot of wrestling. It should be a lot of fun.
Okay, now tell me where you guys are. You're doing it at the school?
We're going to do it at Will Rogers in the rack in the building that we have in the back.
Tell me about the setup. I used to love going down and watching the juniors that were wrestled down, even not just at the BOK, but way back a long time ago over at the thing like the Pavilion. Used to love to go watch that. So tell me about your setup.
We're going to have 4 different mats. So we'll have 4 mats going at one time. So we have plenty of wrestling, plenty to watch, a lot of excitement. We'll probably put girls on one mat and all the boys in weight classes on the others. Should have a good time.
And you know that right now with girls wrestling being so popular, that end of the building is going to be taken, isn't it?
It's fun. Girls wrestling, it usually has a lot of pins. So they go fast, and there's a lot of excitement. It's not long, drawn-out matches with 1-0 scores. It's fast, it's furious, it's a lot of fun.
And they, when I first started becoming a big deal girls wrestling, I was very interested in this, and I'd watched a couple of matches, and they are aggressive, aren't they?
Very aggressive, very aggressive. And we have some that are maybe too aggressive. So they're a good time to watch, and it'll bring a lot of joy to you.
It's interesting because when boys come into the sport, a lot of times they've done this at lower ages and stuff, and a lot of these young ladies are coming in, and it's a first time thing for them. So, How do you start? Where do you begin? I'm sure it's with the basics, but how do you start? They don't have bad habits,
no,
but they also don't have a base of knowledge yet.
They don't. You have to get them to understand it's okay not to be ladylike, right? You have to take that little bit of passiveness out of them and let them open up on that aggressiveness. Once they find that, they're off and running. But it's starting with those basics, those first 5 or 6 moves, just to kind of get the ball rolling and learn how to be physical. And once they learn how to be physical, then it opens up and they learn fast.
There's got to be a comfort level there because there's some awkward positioning and all those kinds of things. So they just have to work through that.
They have to work through it, and they have to understand the mechanics of the body and how the physics of wrestling, we call it, works. So if they push here, it's going to do this. If they pull here, it's going to do that. They have to understand that piece of it. And once they get that, we're good.
How long I've always been told that they absorb faster than boys do. So how quickly are they getting on?
We have some girls that have, they're starting their senior year and already winning tournaments. And we got others that, spend 3 or 4 years and don't really get there. It's individual. It's how much they're there. Are they interested in the sport? Are they committed to sport? Or are they dedicated or obsessed? If they get to that obsessed level, they learn real fast and they get a high level of success at that point.
And let's be honest, every sport you play and when you practice, they all have their difficult moments. I covered Major League Spring Training. You might not think that's difficult as you watch these guys jog around in perfect grass. But when you dedicate yourself to wrestling, everything is hard.
Everything is hard. And you don't have a day off. You're living it, you're breathing it, you're thinking through the moves, making sure that every move you do, you're doing it correctly, your body position's correct, so your muscle memory is correct. Because when you're out there wrestling and you're in the flurry, you're not thinking, you're moving, you're reacting, and that muscle memory has to be there.
Now, almost all young people are pretty bendy, but we think of young ladies as being even more flexible. Is that an advantage?
In some cases. In some cases, the moves, the traditional moves that we use, we can't really use on the ladies because their shoulders don't work the same as boys. And so where you'd apply pressure and get a boy to turn, well, the girls don't turn. Their shoulders roll. And so you have to adjust and modify some of those moves so that it works on a female body versus the male body.
What are your numbers like for both boys and girls?
For the girls, we have 7 total right now in the high school level. We've got about 13 in the middle school. On the boys' side, we've got, I think we're sitting right around 25 right now.
Are you seeing those girls' numbers continue to rise? Really, numbers from both rising?
They are rising. We're getting new girls, and we already have some that are ready to sign on for next year.
Oh.
And then the middle school side is growing, which obviously leads in the high school side as well.
And they take that back, that they're having fun or that they're achieving, and then that, rising tide, so to speak, right?
It does. Once they have success, it becomes infectious.
All right, you don't tell anybody else, just me and you. Would you rather coach the boys or the girls on a given day?
Girls. Girls are a lot more fun. I'm a girl dad. I got 3 daughters, so it makes sense.
So you were there to begin with. All right, one more time, quick, tell us about your tournament.
Tournament, it's going to be a one-day tournament. We're going to start wrestling about 11:30, and we'll go until we're done, which will probably be about 6:30 or 7.
All right.
And 16 teams.
Outstanding. Stephen Phillips, Rogers Wrestling, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
He was a last-second fill-in, by the way. Got here like that. Thanks very much. Back in a moment with more Inside Tulsa Athletics.
Hey, Tulsa, we have a crushing recycle play of the day for you. Team Johnson versus paper and cardboard.
They're starting off slow today, probably trying to figure out what to do with those styrofoam plates, since they're not recyclable.
There's the big play we were waiting for. Boom! Completely empty cardboard boxes dunked in the cart. Score big by recycling your cardboard and paper. Learn more at TulsaRecycles.com.
I love Will Rogers Athletics because it helped me physically, spiritually, and emotionally through all the journeys I've been through at that school. All of the support staff helped me a lot, and it's just an amazing school.
Athletics at Will Rogers changed my life because it became a second family. With the support of my coaches and teammates, it's helped me gain confidence, work as a team, and will help me in college and in life.
Well, it's a new year, and welcome into Inside Tulsa Athletics. I'm your host, Rick Couri, and now that the calendar has flipped and the seasons have moved, it's time for us to talk about some different sports, and we're going to begin that right now with this young lady. That's Emily Stone. She's an assistant AD and also has something to do with swimming for Tulsa Public Schools. Now, you told me you kind of came to this late, so give people a little bit of your background.
Yes, sir. So I came from ORU Athletics. I was the director of marketing and fan engagement there. So this is definitely a different avenue for me. This is one that I've been working towards. I've always wanted to be an athletic director. And it's just been super exciting since I got here. I've dealt with multiple sports. That was kind of my thing at ORU. I was over every home game at ORU. So I was kind of everywhere, but we didn't have swimming. And, I love swimming. I've never dealt with swimming. But this has been something super exciting for me to learn and grow in.
So many things to talk about right there. Let's first of all begin with what you did at ORU.
Yeah.
Because nowadays, a sport, in high school it's a little different because there are moms and dads and grandmas and grandpas and boyfriends and girlfriends. It still needs to be marketed.
For sure.
It still needs to be an event, not just a game.
Mm-hmm.
Do you bring some of that expertise?
Absolutely. It is more than just a game, right? Yep. We're there to entertain our fans. We want them to keep coming back, but it's also the experience for our student athletes, right? We want them to have the best experience possible. That way they do stay and they want to stay at this specific school to continue to grow their career in whatever sport. And whether they want to go off to college and play that sport, that's up to them. But ultimately, we want them to have the best experience possible. And my background doing that at ORU has taught me a lot. And it's been super fun being able to bring that here, especially for the Tournament of Champions that we just had. And so it was fun to be able to do that in a different setting, not college, but almost on a bigger scale with all these high schools coming in to play in this tournament. So it's been super fun to learn that in a different aspect of athletics for me.
And you said you wanted to be an AD. What attracts that?
Yeah, so I've always wanted to be an athletic director. I've always wanted to help make a difference in these student athletes' lives. I want them, like I just said, I want to give them the best possible opportunities and experience that they can get. And this is the opportunity for us to connect with them before they get to college and help mold them into what their potential can be.
Sure.
And so that's what excites me about being an athletic director. And this is definitely the path that I'm excited to continue to go on and learn from.
Well, considering you said you came into it you hadn't been involved with swimming, pun intended, how did you dive in?
How did I dive in? Well, it's been super fun to learn and connect with our coaches. And that was the biggest step for me, is just connecting with our coaches that have swim teams here in our district. And one of them being Edison Prep. Mm-hmm. They have had a phenomenal season with only having 6 to 7 swimmers on their team. It's not a huge team, but their boys placed 5th and their girls have placed 6th. And so that's a big deal for them, having just that many athletes on their roster, right? And, they've competed against 11 teams and have averaged over 30 swimmers each. And so in my opinion, not knowing a lot about swimming is pretty big time.
That is.
For that amount of athletes on their team. And they had one extraordinary swimmer on their team, Joshua Blanchard. He has been selected to be a part of the USA team. And so he's going to be representing the 2025 World Championships in Australia on the USA team, which is super exciting for TPS to have a phenomenal athlete like that, being able to represent USA.
That is really fantastic. All right, now one of the things about swimming to me, you talked about facilities, and we were actually discussing this a little bit beforehand. There are 2 pools at Tulsa Public Schools. How busy are those things?
They are very busy. It's always a balance of schedules. And when, say, Booker T wants to practice at Memorial, it's balancing those schedules on when you can get in and when you can get out. And I'm not sure if they rent their pools out or not, but I know that if that is the case, like most schools do, then it's a balance of other people's schedules, not just in our district. And so it's definitely a fine line and a fine balance to be able to work around each other.
Now, something else you're involved in is something called Fuel. I'd never heard of it. Explain that to me.
Yeah, so Fuel is a new initiative that we have in our district. It stands for Females Understanding, Educating, and Learning. It's an opportunity for our younger females in our district, such as middle school, to be able to just get involved and understand what it takes and what it means to be in sports and what it can do for their lives. Statistics show that 50% more likely females are to drop out of sports compared to their male counterparts, which is a pretty high number in my opinion. You want them to stay in it. But the highest drop-off rate occurs between the ages of 11 and 17. And so this is going to be an opportunity to bring these young female athletes into a setting where they're surrounded by other females that are impactful in athletics. And they get to hear from them. And we actually have our first annual Fuel Summit here coming up on Friday, April 11th at Metro Technology Centers in Oklahoma City. And so I think that's going to be super fun, and it's exciting for me to get to see these young females be able to experience what I've always grown up and experienced, and seeing these strong females in athletics.
Well, it sounds really neat, and it sounds like you kind of jumped in, as I said, full force.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for coming over. Thank you for the time and being here, and good luck going forward.
I appreciate you.
You betcha. That is Emily Stone. She's an assistant AD and, of course, also, as you heard, part of the swimming program at Tulsa Public Schools. Coming back with more next here on Inside Tulsa Athletics.
Hey Tulsa, welcome back to the top recycling play of the day. Team Johnson is facing off against a tough competitor, plastic.
Don't trust those numbers on the bottom. You have to stick to what you know. Only bottles and jugs found in the kitchen, bath, or laundry. They're quick to pick up. And empty those bottles before sinking that shot.
Always empty your bottles before recycling. Score big by recycling your plastic bottles and jugs. Learn more at TulsaRecycles.com.
Being an athlete at Edison High School has taught me to work as a team rather than as an individual. Whenever you're on a team, you have a special bond with each other. You know you can rely on them in a time of need, whether on or off the court. Whether it be a shoulder to cry on or advice on how you can improve, you know your team will always be there for you.
Well, that's a wrap for another Inside Tulsa Athletics. You learned a lot about Memorial High School basketball with Bobby Allison, what's happening over at McLain with Randy Rutherford. Juan Yu was here talking about Edison and more, and we'll be back with even more of that. Until then, find yourself a gym, dress warm on the way there, and go watch a little high school basketball right about now. Back next with Inside Tulsa Athletics.